Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Angry Jay here today, and today I'm going to get into a team breakdown. I'm going to start with the Boston Bruins, and just to give a little overview of what's going to happen with this episode is first, I'm going to give the breakdown of the team, their strengths, weaknesses, line combinations, and some basic player profiles. And then after that, I'm going to play a game against the computer. So that's going to be more me talking more team strategy and talking a little bit more in depth about the players on the team. So that's not really critical if you just want a really good overview of the team, just some basic knowledge. This first portion of the video will be most critical to you, and then if you choose to do so, you can get a more in-depth analysis during the gameplay. So trying to accommodate both types of crowds. One type of crowd who wants something a little bit more simple, a little bit more something of shorter duration, and then the other crowd who wants something a bit more in depth. So with that in mind, let's get to Boston. Boston in the 92-93 season finished the regular season at 51-26-7 for 109 points. So they had a really strong season winning their division, but they lost in the first round to Buffalo in the playoffs. So it's kind of a disappointing end. In NHL 94, they have a high home ice advantage, so they're going to get some nice boosts at home, and they have an average road disadvantage, so they're not going to be in terrible shape on the road, but they will feel some effects of travel and all that. So that's something to keep in mind. Boston overall, I would probably classify them as a tier 3 team, but they're really a team that's pretty versatile. You could really take them up against a lot of different teams above them, and it's not a crazy idea. But I think some of their better matchups are within their tier, obviously, and that would be Dallas, Quebec, Toronto, and the Rangers. You could stretch them out into some tier 2 teams like Calgary and LA, and even a tier 1 such as Montreal. And then if you really want to get nuts, you could even take them up against Buffalo, which is one of the probably top 3 teams in the game. And Boston has enough versatility to combat Buffalo. So let's go over some of their strengths and why they can jump up into the tier list in some of their matchups. And they have probably the best defense in the game in terms of purely defensemen. They have the top weight bug checker, the top CB checker, and depth that pretty much goes unmatched in this game. They have weight bug and CB checking versatility not only in the defensive ranks but also in the forward ranks, so they can really just match up against other teams pretty nicely. They have a great manual goalie in Andy Moog because he's very agile and lightweight, so he goes from post to post rather quickly. And they have a decent combo on offense, a 1-2 combo of Adam Oates and Cam Neely if you can utilize them to their fullest extent. Some weaknesses that they have: they don't have any offensive game breakers. There's no elite speed on this team. There's no elite goal scoring skill set player. So everything that you get with this team is going to be earned. When Andy Moog is in computer AI, he's only decent. He's not Patrick Wall or Ed Belfour, obviously, in auto goalie control, so he gets a downgrade there. Their scoring can be a little bit unbalanced because they, like I said before, they don't really have an offensive game breaker, so you're really trying to stretch your top 2 guys out, Oates and Neely, to get that offense and kind of make up for the fact that you don't have one all-star player to just carry you through a game. And lastly, it takes a lot of work to get big results with this team. So if you take them up the tier list and try and play Buffalo or Montreal, it's not an easy task. You have to really work for those games and have a great strategy. So one thing that you can use to ensure that you have a great strategy moving forward in a game with the Boston is by having a good line combo. So let's go over first the forwards in this game. And the first line combo that I would suggest is Joe Juneau at the left, Cam Neely in center, and Adam Oates at right wing. So let's just go over these players real quick. Joe Juneau, he's going to be your left winger here. He's got decent skating, 4 skating, and agility and speed, so he's a 4-4 skater out of 6. If you haven't seen the attribute video, go ahead and take a look at that. So these ratings are broken down into essentially 6 subsets, or 7 subsets, excuse me. And so Joe Juneau, he's got 4 out of 6 skating, in speed and agility. So he's on his natural side here as a lefty. His offensive awareness is fine at 4 and defensive awareness is 3, so nothing too crazy there. His shot power is a 4, which is nice, but he's not going to have too many slap shot opportunities on the left. He'll be mostly one-timers. Will his shot power really come through? And his shot accuracy of 3 is fine, but he's not an elite goal scorer by any stretch of the imagination. Pass accuracy 4, stick handling 4. So he's fine at wing, especially at 180. He can really just dance around on the outside, and he's a good weight bug checker to keep other teams' larger players honest. Moving on to Cam Neely, he is going to be your goal scorer with this lineup. He's got 4.4 speed, but where he really makes hay is with his offensive awareness of 5 and his shot power ratings 4 with a shot accuracy of 5. So he's an elite shooter. If you can get the puck to him in premium scoring chances, scoring areas, he's likely going to put a goal on the board because he's just a great one-time option. He's not very fast. He's not very agile, so he's going to be a little limited one-on-one, especially with how heavy he is at 220 pounds. But if you can get him some one-timers, he's going to be great. Some of his other ratings, pass accuracy 4, stick handling 4, those are fine. And he's a good checking presence with 4 check rating here. So if you want a CB with Cam Neely, go for it, because he's going to be able to throw his weight around, and there's not a lot of guys that can withstand his physical play. And then the last part of your line here is obviously your highest rated player, but I don't know if he's necessarily the best player on the team, because his ratings don't really scream out in NHL 94. He doesn't have the most important ratings. I mean, he's a good skater, 5 agility, 4 speed, but he doesn't have elite game-breaking speed to just drive down the wing. He's just a good technical skater that can really wiggle free in some tight situations, but he's not going to just blow by defense. His awareness, 6 offensive awareness, 5 defensive awareness, so he should always be in the right spot at the right time, ideally. His shot power is a 3, his shot accuracy is a 4, so he's not a detriment to goal scoring on his own, but he's not obviously going to break the game wide open with his shooting ability. And his pass accuracy and his stick handling are really the 2 ratings that are the most important here. This is what will allow Cam Neely to get his one-time opportunities, is when Adam Oates is out on the wing, he's creating chances with his high agility, and then his very good passing and incredible stick handling will open up these opportunities for Cam Neely. And then Adam Oates at 196, he doesn't really fall into a weight bug or a CB check type of situation. So you kind of have to play him based on matchup, whether you're facing a lightweight wing such as, say, Theo Fleury, you want to use Oates as a CB checker. But if you're playing someone a bit heavier, like, say, Kirk Muller in Montreal, he's going to be a weight bug checker. So he's a guy he kind of goes both ways. He's not CB, obviously, and he's not weight bug. So that's going to be your top line. Now, for some people, Cam Neely, they don't really care for Cam Neely, whether because they can't CB check or, they don't care for his inability to carry the puck because he's just a big target. So some people will go Joe Juneau in the middle with a different winger on the left, and that is Ted Donato. So Ted Donato is a very basic player. There is very little that stands out about him. He has 3 agility, 4 skating, or 4 speed. He's a lefty on his natural side, which is nice. 4 defensive awareness, so he should be more shaded toward his own zone than the offensive zone. All of his skill ratings are 3. Nothing fantastic there. The one main thing that makes Ted Donato relevant is his weight, or his lack thereof. He's an incredible weight bug checker, and he does just enough with the puck to not completely wreck the offense. So this is more of your defensive / enforcer type lineup if you're going against a little bit heavier of a team. If you're going against Montreal, Ted Donato might not do you a whole lot of good, but anybody 6 weight or above, which is 188 pounds, he's going to lay them out with regularity. So definitely want to keep him in mind for some more defensive type situations. And then lastly, the third line that I would recommend is just merely switching Juneau and Oates. Oates is a better stick handler and a more agile player than Juneau, so he may be better able to weave through traffic and get some deke opportunities or float shot opportunities on an unsuspecting goalie. So it's really preference here. I mean, you leave your best playmaker at center, which is kind of awkward, I think, but he may do you more good in the center than Juneau. So it's kind of a personal preference type of thing. Can't really go wrong with it. And so those are really the 3 lines I would recommend, just to kind of go over some substitute players real quick, just in case you run into injuries. First one is Dmitry Kvartlanov. He's your basic strong wing player, but nothing about him stands out. He's got 4.4 skating, 4 awareness on offense, shot power, shot accuracy are both at 3, and his pass accuracy and his stick handling are the key stats for him at 4 each. And he's 188 pounds, so he's going to be a good winger. If you need a replacement winger and you want some offensive skill as opposed to, say, Ted Donato's defensive acumen, Kvartlanov is definitely the way to go. If you want a CB option and Neely's in the box or he's hurt, then where did he go? There he is. Vladimir Ruzicka is your best bet. He's got 4.4 skating. His awareness is a little bit low at 3 each, and then his shot power is 4 with a shot accuracy of 3. So he's got a little bit more juice in his shot than Adam Oates, which is nice. And his pass accuracy and stick handling, 3 for pass accuracy, 4 for stick handling. So he's going to be decent in the middle. He can dance through guys a little bit, provided they don't just physically check him. He can kind of go through sticks a little bit, but at 220 pounds, he's really going to have a hard time carrying the puck with regularity. But he's going to be a good CB check option. Even though he's only a 2 checker, that weight should help him lay out most players on the ice, unless they're just very close to his weight. So he's a guy to keep in mind as a CB option. And then just to go even quicker over a couple more options in case you get really desperate, Dave Poulin, he's a very average player, 4 agility, 3 in pretty much everything else, but except a 4 in passing. So he could be a decent wing option. And then Pantaleev here, very low rated, so you might not think much of him, but he actually has some decent skating skills. He's a 4 agility, 4 speed. His awareness is low. That's why he has such a low rating, because awareness ratings are weighted pretty heavily in overall. He's only got 2 awareness in each offense and defense, and then his skills, 2 shot power, 3 shot accuracy, and then 3 in pass accuracy and stick handling. So he's fine as a winger if you just want a nimble guy on the wing and you're really running out of options. And then lastly, Steven Hines, very average player, 3s across the board, 188 weight, nothing remarkable about him. He's just not going to hurt you if you have to put him out on the ice. But where Boston really separates themselves from a lot of teams is on defense. So their number 1 defense pairing is Don Sweeney and Ray Bourque. Why? Because they are quite simply the best CB checker and the best weight bug checker in the game. First with Don Sweeney, he's better off on the left because he's the less skilled of the 2 players, and they're both left-handed shots. So I typically like to have my defenseman on their natural side, and if I have to put one off on their offside, I want the more skilled one on their offside because it's easier for them to make up the uncomfortableness of playing your offside. So Don Sweeney, good 4.4 skater, got 4 defensive awareness, so he's going to hang back more often than not. He's got 4 shot power, 1 shot accuracy, which is pretty typical for a defenseman to have 1 shot accuracy. And his passing and stick handling are actually really nice at 4 each. And this is what makes him a great weight bug checker, is because he's so lightweight. There are very few players in the game who either weigh 172 or less. So anybody 188 or more, he's gonna just annihilate them if he gets body contact. And with his skating of 4.4, he's just gonna be flying all around the ice because lighter players are more agile and get to their top speed faster. So not only do you have a great checker, you have a great skater who can then obviously use that great skating to help him check even better. So Don Sweeney, very important piece to this Boston blue line. And then Ray Bourque is the CB component, and he is easily the most skilled defenseman in the game with the puck on his stick. He has 5 agility, 4 speed, with a 4 offensive awareness and 6 defensive awareness ratings. He will sometimes get caught up ice, but generally speaking, he does stay in his own zone, and when he is in his own zone, he picks off a lot of passes if he's not body checking people, because I'll get to that in a second. But he's a defensive force even in AI mode. His shot power and shot accuracy are both 5, which is beyond elite for defensemen. No other defenseman even comes close to those ratings. And then his pass accuracy and stick handling are also 5s, so he's great with the puck on his stick. And even at 220 pounds, he can withstand some weight bug checks because of his 5 stick handling. The game allows him to do this because of his high stick handling rating. He'll kind of shrug checks off every once in a while. So even as far as heavier players go, he's somewhat resistant to weight bug checking, but it isn't something you ever want to bet on. And then getting to his checking, he has a 6 check rating. So in AI mode, he's just a savage beast. He's going to lay people out left and right. If they get anywhere near his net or near him, he's going to lay the lumber. And then this 6 check rating, this 220 pounds, and this 5 agility, 4 speed skating makes him the best CB checker in the game. You can pretty much take him up against Eric Lindros, not Cam Neely, Dave Andrechuk, anybody. Just CB them. Ray Bork's likely going to take them out. His check ratings are just phenomenal. But some people don't know how to CB check, like I mentioned before with Neely. So if you have to take out Bork because he's just too heavy for your liking, there is another option. His name is Glenn Wesley. He's a very good defenseman. He would start on most every other team in the game, but in Boston, he's pretty much the third man. And it's unfortunate because he has 5 agility, 4 speed, so he's a fantastic skater. He's got 3 offensive awareness, 4 defensive awareness, very solid, 4 shot power, 1 shot accuracy, 4 pass accuracy, and 4 stick handling. So he's essentially Don Sweeney, but with better skating, but he's a little bit heavier. At 204 pounds, he's kind of an in-between guy, but he's more of a CB guy with that weight. And with 3 check rating, he'll be fine as a CB guy against guys like Steve Yzerman and maybe even Alexander Mogilny in some cases. So Glenn Wesley, I mean, if you have to dig down into the bench for whatever reason, whether it's personal preference or injuries or what have you, Wesley's a great option. And then also another great option, Gordon Murphy. He's very similar to Glenn Wesley. He's got 5 agility, 4 speed, 4 shot power, 1 shot accuracy, but his stick ratings are a little bit less, 3 each for pass and stick handling. And then he's got the same weight, but he is a better CB checker because he has a 4 check rating. So Gordon Murphy is another fantastic option. And then if you really have to, or if you really love to CB check, Glenn Featherstone is a guy that can be iced. He's got 3 skating, in agility and speed. His stick ratings don't matter because you're not going to try and play offense with him. All that matters is his weight, and he's got 4 checking. So between those 2 things and his average skating, he's going to be a CB Force 2. And if you really like the CB check, he's a guy to keep in mind. So those are essentially your roster options here in Boston. And then Boston is one of the few teams in the game to have a goalie controversy, but it's not really that controversial. You look at these ratings and you go, okay, John Blue, he's obviously the superior goalie. That's not really the case because Andy Moog, he has better agility, 4 agility rating compared to 3 for Blue. Blue's only advantage is his defensive awareness, but defensive awareness doesn't really do a whole lot other than pump up a player's overall rating. And we don't care about overall rating if the ratings behind it aren't that effective. So looking here, Moog has another advantage with his puck control with a 4 rating opposed to Blue's 3. Their pad ratings are all the same, but Moog is a lighter goalie, so he's going to move more quickly than Blue, and that's further exacerbated by the fact that Moog has higher agility, so he has higher agility and lower weight. Moog is a fantastic manual goalie option. He can really play head games with the other team because he just moves so fluid within his crease that you can kind of show a certain thing and then take it away with his ability to move around his crease so easily, whereas John Blue does not have that ability. So you want to make sure Moog stays in net. You don't want to go for the higher overall rating with John Blue. And so that essentially wraps up Boston. Just to kind of quickly review their strategy. You want to use your lockdown defense to frustrate opponents. I mean, you have the best defense in the game, and it can always check whoever's on the ice against you, whether they need to be weight bug checked or CV checked. You have plenty of options at your disposal, so use that defense to your benefit. If you're a great manual goalie, manual goalie user, don't be afraid to use them with Boston. Andy Moog only becomes a better player when you use him in manual. Use your weight bug check and your CB checkers to play matchups, so don't feel like you always have to play the same lineup every time. You have so many options with Boston. I mean, none of them are necessarily elite, especially on offense, but defensively you can make this game an absolute slog, so use everything that you have to your advantage. On offense, use patience and passing. They don't have a game breaker on offense. You can't just storm up the ice with elite speed and go score a goal at your will. You have to be patient, you have to be smart. So when you do get the puck, play a possession type game, and if you do lose the puck in the offensive zone, use your guys to forecheck. Joe Juneau, Ted Donato, Cam Neely, even they are master forecheckers. If you can get in on the defense, create turnovers, that'll help you actually create some more offense by allowing you to only have to move the puck with 1 or 2 passes to score a goal as opposed to having to move the puck up the entire sheet of ice. And then lastly, you just want to emphasize making the game for your opponent slow. You don't want them to get their speed going, especially if you give them a team like Dallas or New York Rangers, where those teams do have fast and skilled players. You want to try and mitigate that speed. So, play smart, protect your slot, don't give the puck away at the opponent's blue line, allowing them to counter you. You really want to just make sure you possess the puck, get the puck deep in the offensive zone. If you do lose it, you want to make sure the opponent has to go the entire length of the ice to bring the puck back towards you. You want to keep things to the outside in your own defensive zone. So you just want to play smart. There's no reason to gamble with Boston. What you're essentially looking for is your opponent to make the mistake, not you. So with that said, if you're just looking for the basic breakdown, then that's all you'll really need for this video. But if you want a little bit more, I'm going to take Boston here and play a little exhibition against Montreal, which is one of their key matchups, I think, because a lot of people like to pick Montreal in tournaments. They have a strong goalie in Patrick Law, and they have some really nice weight bug defensemen. So this is or weight bug forwards. So this is definitely a matchup that you're going to see a lot of. And if you don't see this exact matchup, you're definitely going to see Montreal. So it's best to be prepared for them, because you may see them 4 or 5 times in a tournament, and you can't always be the same team against Montreal. You may have to use Boston, you may have to use Calgary, LA. There's a lot of different things you'll have to be prepared for. So this is definitely a good matchup to be familiar with. So I'm just trying to get the correct line out there now. So this is the #1 line that I suggested, with Joe Juneau at the left, Cam Neely at center, and Adam Oates at the right. So what I really like about this lineup is that it's clearly the most balanced. You get a good CB checker here with Cam Neely, and you get a good weight bug checker with Joe Juneau. So you can really close down on your opponent regardless of whoever they have on their team, because you're not icing all weight bug checkers, not icing all CB checkers. You have versatility here, so that's the most important thing with Boston, and that's what I really like to emphasize with this line. Is it's just the most versatile overall line, and this is the best offensive lineup they can ice too, because Cam Neely is easily their most talented shooter. Boston doesn't have a lot of shot power available to them, especially within the forward ranks. And once you get past Ray Bork, their shooting options really dry up. So if you can, play with Cam Neely at center and learn how to CB check and how to, utilize him without him touching the puck a lot, then you're really gonna maximize Boston when you use them. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. But there are some matchups, this isn't one of them, where you will want to consider Ted Donato, because he's such a great weight bug checker. So trying to unleash a shot to show Neely's shot power. So it's a little bit tough blasting a slapper by Patrick Law, but you may have to do it sometimes in the tournament just to keep your opponent guessing and vary up your offense. Even if you know you're not going to score on a certain angle, sometimes you just got to try it. And sometimes you get a weird rebound or a weird deflection, and things will happen. That's kind of how hockey is. It's not always predictable the way the puck bounces, even in a 25-year-old video game. So other matchups you'll want to be prepared for with Boston is Quebec. Quebec's kind of in a similar boat to Boston, where they don't have an elite skater, but they do have a lot more offensive talent than Boston. Where you can really take advantage of Quebec is on their defense and their goaltending. It's not as strong as Boston, so if you can get some big saves out of Andy Moog, and then kickstart your counterattack, you can catch Quebec sleeping, because their forwards aren't the best back checkers. They don't have a lot of weight bug or CB checkers, except for Kovalenko, but he's kind of awkward to use because he doesn't have a great agility rating. So it's just a matchup where you can really take advantage of any mistakes that your opponent makes. But if your opponent doesn't make any mistakes, Quebec is, very capable of putting enough goals on the board to be a threat, which is why it's a good matchup. It's definitely the offensive. If you know you're playing against an offensive-minded player and you're the more defensive-minded player, they're probably going to take Quebec as opposed to Boston. Whereas if you're a more offensive-minded guy in that matchup, you're probably going to take Quebec, so you should be expecting to play against Boston. So you definitely want to know both sides of that matchup. But I think Boston overall has an advantage in that one because of their versatility, whereas Quebec doesn't really have any. And then you can also play Boston against a couple of speedy teams with a little bit less skill, like Dallas and the Rangers. Dallas really has low-end skill, especially when it comes to shooting. They're really inaccurate, and they don't have the shot power that, well, I guess they do with Modano, but they're even less accurate than the Rangers with their shooting. So if you can kind of keep them outside of the slot and make them shoot from long range, I think you're really going to have a lot of success against Dallas. And then their defense is really susceptible to pretty much anything because their defensemen aren't that great. Their best defender is Neil Broughton, who's a winger. So if you can keep the puck away from him or his side of the ice and just catch Dallas sleeping, because they're going to be pushing really hard to score their goals because it's just they have to crash the net, they have to get close, to be consistent. Otherwise, they're just in a lot of trouble on offense. New York is kind of the same story, but New York is a much more CB reliant team because they have guys like Tikkanen, Messier, James Patrick, who are all great skaters, but are very heavy. And so you'll definitely want to use more of your weight bug type of guys. This might be a matchup where you bring in Ted Donato as opposed to Cam Neely. New York's defense is good but not great, and their goaltending is average at best. So you don't need your elite Cam Neely type goal scorer in that situation. But this might be a situation where you do play Cam Neely because there's enough heavier players out there to where maybe he can carry the puck a little bit more than he's accustomed to. So, and this just perfectly illustrates how you can use Boston in any manner that you really want because they have that versatility to be weight bug or to be CB check, or in this case the line I'm using right now, which is the one I recommend, to be balanced and have both options out on the ice. You just have to keep track of who you're using and who is carrying the puck to help you decide whether to CB check or weight bug check. And then I think I mentioned their crazy matchup earlier, and their crazy matchup is against Buffalo, and a lot of people might think, why on earth would you try and take Boston against Buffalo? I mean, Buffalo has one of the best players, if not the best player in the game, and that's exactly why you take them put them against Buffalo, is because Alexander McGillney, for all of his amazing ratings and possibly being the #1 player in the game, Boston can limit him because everybody on Boston except for Adam Oates can check Alexander McGillney. So if Alexander McGillney tries to go down the middle and go 1-on-5 and just deke through everybody, Boston is the most well-equipped team to deal with that because they have so much versatility that it doesn't matter who you are, generally speaking, controlling. They're going to be able to play physical against Alexander McGillney. And if you shut down McGillney, Buffalo doesn't have a lot of other weapons aside from that. I mean, LaFontaine is a very good player, but he's not your one-on-one all-star player that's going to carry you, against a high-end defensive team like Boston. Howardchuk, he's a great player too, but he's mostly just a playmaker. If he has to play offense and be a goal scorer, he's not going to be consistent with it. You may have him during a game where the guy can't hit the net to save his life. So it's a very risky proposition if McGillney isn't firing on all cylinders. And then Buffalo's defense is fine, not great. and their goalie is very good with Grant Fuhrer in net. But it's a pretty playable matchup, I think, for Boston, because they're scrappy. They can play enough defense. They can create enough turnovers. They can just create enough havoc out there for a team, like Buffalo. No matter how good they are, Boston just stacks up against them pretty well. I wouldn't necessarily take Boston against Detroit. I wouldn't really want to take Boston against Chicago, because Chicago does a lot of the same things, but they have a better player in Jeremy Roenick, obviously, and better goaltending with Ed Belfour. So those are some matchups I would try to stay away from. But aside from that, you could probably consider Boston, even or just a little bit at a little disadvantage at worst. So Boston's a team you want to get used to. You want to be familiar with them, because they're going to be in a lot of matchups. They're a popular team to be picked, and a lot of the teams that they go up against are also popular, like Montreal, Quebec, and Calgary. Those are some popular teams. Buffalo is also popular, so they're definitely a team you need to be aware of in tournament format. So that pretty much wraps it up for Boston. Hope you learned something here, and if you have any questions, obviously just post them in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give me a thumbs down, and feel free to subscribe if you're so inclined. I really appreciate any type of support I get. So with that said, that's Boston, and I'll be back in the next episode with Quebec. Until then, bye.